So in this property, we have two different types of dampness. One is around the external walls, in particularly in the corner where we can see mold. Mold grows in the same sort of areas as condensation. It's caused by excess vapor, made worse by heat loss in the corners, the lack of airflow, the increased external surface area, but it's still caused by excess vapor. That's the primary cause of mold, and it's made worse by heat loss. The other type of dampness is on the chimney breast, as you can see here. Now, this is unusual because it was where there used to be a chimney. The chimney's been removed, and typically what you get is hygroscopic salts. It's a form. It's like table salt. It causes uh, condensation at normal levels of relative humidity, around 50% relative humidity. The unusual thing here is that there's a slight brown stain, which suggests that some of the dampness is coming through the wall. There are also calcium sulfate salts. So it's sometimes difficult to tell exactly what's happened in the past, but I did look on the other side of the wall and tested for a leak. You'll see later on. So with the data loggers, when you've got the data loggers up, you want to put it you want to have it close to a damp zone, but it's hard to get it right in the. You also got a bit of mold growing up there, which is again is a sign of high excess humidity. It grows where relative humidity is above 85% for a long period of time. But it's very difficult to get it at the coldest point. You can use something like a laser thermometer to find the coldest point. But then I still want you to find the temperature difference between the data logger and the coldest part of the wall, and that temperature difference you'll be able to use that to work out the surface relative humidity, because the relative humidity is a function of both temperature and amount of vapor in the air. And if there's even 1 degree difference between the data logger and the coldest part of the wall, you'll increase the relative humidity. It's roughly 5% for every drop in temperature of 1%. Okay. So if the data logger is saying 95%, let's say, actually the coldest part of the room is going to be at 100% where you're going to get condensation.
I see.
So it's key to.
So you're saying you should get something like this as well to be able to check?
I'm going to recommend it, and you'll be the best person to see, because it'll be on at night. You'll find the greatest heat difference between the data logger and the coldest part of the wall. Okay,
so that can still go in that area you're suggesting, the data logger, and then I still would be using something like this to then find what the temperature is.
Yes.
And then understand what that difference is.
Exactly.
So I would check on the app what that temperature is saying.
But I've arranged the website. You will be able to just change the I'll link it down here. Temperature difference, and it will dynamically change the graph.
Okay.
So you don't necessarily have to be accurate with it. It's more as a way of visualizing, understanding what's happening to the wall, and not just taking the temperature and relative humidity of the data logger, but understanding what's happening to the wall in the coldest part.
Okay.
Because, for instance, on the glass it's going to be colder because of the heat loss. So I'm going to measure the airflow from the bathroom with air monitor. Kitchen extractor fan doesn't go out, so when you pull this out, it's very common in the UK for kitchen extractor fans not to be externally ducted. Since 2012, it was a building regulations requirement, but unfortunately people don't follow it and no one checks. So any vapor from cooking is going to diffuse around the
rest of the house,
and obviously drying clothes internally. But so use a dehumidifier when that. And then the bathroom extractor fan is turns off immediately. You turn the lights off. But if you have the door closed and the window open, that's effective as well. So we're running at 3.7, should be 15. We might be able to clean this up and improve it. See, it's quite dusty there. I'm going to take it off and inspect it. So essentially the fan's been blocked up, or there is no hole out basically. So I'm going to recommend you get somebody to remove it from the outside. You could get a better fan, but it's probably not the fan's fault. It's just blowing. You can see it, can't you?
Yeah, it's just sealed up, so it's just blowing the air back in, basically.
Whereas very little is coming out. So looking on the outside, we can see that what would have been a bigger air brick probably has been replaced with a small air brick, and it needs to be opened up. I mean, ideally you get one with a flap, which it'll be a circular hole there and a flap, and you have to get somebody to neaten this up a bit. But this needs to be cut out, be a circle about 10 centimetres, and then you've got a through hole. Ideally you get a little bit of pipe, rigid pipe, like this is rigid pipe, because you get less resistance through that. But if they have to use a plastic flexible ducting, just make sure it's absolutely taut, so it's pulled as stretch as much. Otherwise you get this effect of huge resistance from the pipe itself. Back of the property we've got a render crack there, a hairline one there. There are no signs of water penetrating through, otherwise you get a brown stain inside. So this can cause water to come through. If you look at my last survey yesterday, you'll see lots of examples of render cracks and the effects of it. This looks like it's been damp proof. This line down here looks like when they damp proof, they will drill lots of holes and then inject in cream. It does reduce the absorption upwards, but the problem is that it's not actually treating the root cause, which in most cases is condensation. Passive vent here and there, and passive vents, especially when there's no airflow, such as this case, you're going to get lots of heat loss with no benefit. So you're going to get a risk of condensation and mould in those zones. I won't be able to pick it up very easily with a thermal camera. That's interesting. What happened there? Was that an old bathroom or something? They use this as the drain, or?
I don't know why that's been there like that.
Anyway,
it's been there the whole time.
It's not particularly relevant to this. One thing we note is that you've got decking, and that's stopping the airflow. Have you got suspended timber floor or solid floor in the house?
I don't think it's
flat.
I think it's not suspended in there. I think it's suspended because there's no give in that floor there. Okay, so
I'll have a sort of test. But so you got another passive vent there. So passive vents cause more problems than they solve, in my opinion. You can get simple insulation, or you can have some, as in just like something because of the heat loss. Wise door.
But insulation here, or do you mean on the inside?
In here on these passive vents.
On the outside.
What I would do though is I would have somebody knock them out, insulate with probably PIR, which is the thick insulation that you get, sort of Kingspan type insulation, and then seal it up with make it look neat. And this is.
I mean, I don't think there is anything behind here. No.
Nothing to worry about. That looks fine up there. Hygroscopic salts. See, I'll move it to masonry, but it's still 100%. Hygroscopic salts. It's actually still relatively damp. I mean, it obviously goes down, but I do wonder whether the neighbour. Sorry, could you mind if I just skip past? I like to see the neighbour side of any property if I can. not least to see if they've got damp there, but also if they've got a source of water, such as a bath or a washing machine that may be leaking. I'm going to do a leak test here. Could be the source, but I wonder whether it's the neighbour's got a leak. But I'll show you. It's a very simple thing to do. It doesn't take very long. Do you have external stopcock? Or you would have to.
Yeah.
But is it shared with your neighbour?
It is now.
What you do is you allow the water to flow. You turn the external stopcock off. Wait for equilibrium to be reached and then allow the water to suck back. If it sucks back, then you've got a leak. In both cases, the water held firm, so there's not a leak on either side of the property. I measure the subfloor humidity with a hygrometer probe as an access point. To be a bit careful taking it out because I don't want to damage it. There we go. This is looking under the floorboards in the surveyed flat. I don't see, it's not especially damp. I don't smell rot, it doesn't smell humid. I mean, you have a risk because you've got a very low subfloor. There's a gas pipe, I think.
So what, it's normally a bit higher than that?
That's just glue there. Deeper, yes.
Oh, it's normally deeper.
Yeah. I mean, it's a style. It's not a problem. My suspicion is that you've got two things. You've definitely got a risk of hygroscopic salts here because it's an where old chimney breast used to be. But you've got this brown staining here, and it may be that's to do with the painting. It may be that, but just the way it's showing up suggests that there is water coming through the wall, and a brown, as water comes through the wall, it brings through the pigmentation, but it isn't showing it elsewhere, and you'd expect it to show more at the base of the wall than higher up. And it was dry on the other side of the flat as well, the other side of this wall. Proofed, and it's only showing above the damp proofing treatment that it shows it there.
Right. Yeah.
But I can't tell without, obviously you've been here for 2.5 years, and what's happened before you won't know about. Yeah. And generally, hygroscopic salts are misdiagnosed as rising damp, and typically people will treat them as rising damp. Likewise, leaks are treated as rising damp. But we know that this wall is damp deep within it. The surface is dry, so with this machine, it does both the surface. Surface is dry there, but it'll be damp there.
Got you.
But if you use the radio waves, we've got, well, it says 100%. It goes down to 60, which is often walls are around that level anyway, but then it goes up again
As you get near the bottom.
as it gets there, which is not, because rising damp comes the whole way up. It's consistent with hygroscopic salts with and passed down from the chimney breast. It's fairly complex, but hopefully when you see the report, it'll be. Hygroscopic salts come from burning of coal, historic burning of coal, typically. It will say on it, this is a dehumidifier. Here we go. It will say, if you look at the top, it says the capacity, the daily capacity, 10 litres a day. You want to have 20 litres because the speed that the vapour comes off closed needs to have a much higher capacity because it's to do with the rate of condensation. So that's what I recommend, but you can get around it. But while you've got humidity, you've got clear condensation in this room. you may want to do that. Alternatively, put it in the kitchen with a dehumidifier going and the extractor fan, with the either the window open or dehumidifier going. So long as the door's closed and you're keeping it in one space, or even a bathroom, even a bathroom, but it's going to dry more slowly there.
Yeah.
And in the kitchen, you're obviously concerned about picking up smells. So.
Yeah.
But a lot of different ways of doing it. Data loggers is the way of monitoring how well you're ventilating, and you want the internal dew point to be at or below the external temperature throughout the day and night. And by using a data logger, you can monitor what's happening at night.
Okay.
So the dampness on this wall here is caused by the fridge. And obviously you see it's off the scale there, and it drops down there. It's in a plume around the back of the fridge. If I pull the fridge out, I'm just going to. So you've got this vapor condenses into. So in a humid environment, you get a lot of vapor condensing within the fridge, and it drips down through a pipe to the back, and then the idea is that it then gets the heat to then evaporate it out. But in a very humid environment, it causes condensation,
I see.
which is what you've got here.
Got you.
So if you you want to do all the things that I recommended in terms of reducing the vapor, but also having the fridge away from the wall is helpful. So in essence, there are two issues in this property. There's high humidity because the bathroom extractor fan isn't working. There's no kitchen extractor fan, and drying clothes internally without a sufficient dehumidifier is causing condensation and mold in the back bedroom. There are also hygroscopic salts where the chimney breast have been removed. Burning coal releases hygroscopic salts that they cause a form of condensation. It's called deliquescence. It's around 50% relative humidity, and the only thing you can do about it is cover it. So you can damp proof it if you want, but it's a very expensive, destructive way of doing it, or you can just cover with 2 coats of Zinsser cover stain, go 300 ml over and above the zone. But ideally it should be as dry as you can make it before you apply the Zinsser.